All right, how's it going, everybody? It's been a long while since I published a video, and it's for a reason. I felt like I just didn't have anything worthwhile to share. Plus, I have been extremely busy with work. I'm currently in Trinidad, Colorado. It's about 3 hours south of Denver. I'm gonna be here for a month, and then I head back to Denver for 3 months. I want to answer a question from one of our viewers on YouTube. This is about Gary cultivation in Nigeria. I'm going to read his comment to you that he left on the YouTube video that I made about 3 months ago, titled, "I am losing hope finding cassavas for Gary production in Nigeria." Go ahead and look at that video. Check out the comment section. You're going to see this individual's comment and question. So I'm going to read it. I'm not going to read every single word. I'm just going to breeze through it, and then I'm going to answer his question like I promised him I would. So he says, "I am planning to start cassava farming. I have secured a 3-year lease for 25-hectare land in Kogi State. I am just at the rudimentary stage, as in I stumbled on your video, thank you for watching, because I was scavenging for all relevant information that will enhance the prospects. But your statement about you stopping farming kind of gave me the chills, because I am just hanging in there. I'm tired of living in the United States, and I'm trying to set up a business that I can thrive on when I return home in the very near future. Please, do you think me investing on cassava farming could be a wise idea?" Thank you for your anticipation. Thank you in anticipation of your response. So the first thing I'm going to say is I really commend you for taking the step in setting something for yourself back home in Nigeria. I have been preaching this for a very long while for those who've been following me over the years. You can be successful abroad. You can work abroad. You can have a life abroad, but it shouldn't necessarily be at the expense of Nigeria. A lot of people that I know are starting to invest back home. It may not be in enterprise. It could be something as simple as building a home for themselves, where when they visit Nigeria, they have their own private residence to stay and don't have to worry about living with friends and family, sleeping in someone's couch. And some have even taken it a step further, where they're building income properties in Nigeria while still living abroad, with the hopes of eventually transitioning back home full time, or splitting their time between Nigeria and abroad, which is our goal, the goal that I have for my family, is splitting my time between the United States and Nigeria 50-50. So, to answer his question, which is, do you think me investing in cassava farming could be a wise idea? How do I answer this? I want to answer this in a way where I'm encouraging, but I also want you to know the sacrifices and the challenges that lays ahead of you. So, for those who've been following me, you know that I used to cultivate cassava in Nigeria. I have a farmland that I have since turned from a farmland into, I'm building some structures there on that land at the moment. And we experimented with cultivating cassava for a year. It did not work for me for many reasons. The number one was the expense. The amount of time that went into cultivating cassava crops, maintaining the land, paying workers, and then harvesting the cassava. The income that I generated, the revenue that I generated from that cultivation, I actually lost money. And as a result of that, I decided that that wasn't going to be the path for us going forward. As far as our farming business goes, specific to cassavas. I don't consider myself a farmer. I'm an industrialist. I build factories that processes foods. I, put up machineries that process. I don't necessarily consider myself a hard-nosed, roll your sleeves up type of guy who goes and cultivates the soil. And again, as you continue to invest in Nigeria and you continue to explore these areas, you're gonna find where your strengths and weaknesses are. Not necessarily saying that farming is a weakness. I'm just saying that it's not something that I like doing. The processing aspect of it, the manufacturing aspect of it, that is my wheelhouse all day long. I enjoy things like that. But the actual farming, the stress that goes into making sure that your land, people were going as far as like stealing the crops too. So you got to factor that in. It just was not an enjoyable venture for us, so we stopped. And mind you, this cultivation was done on a third of an hectare plot of land. He is talking about investing, or he invested, or he leased a 25 hectare parcel of land that he wants to cultivate on. This is the problem with that. Anything under 1 hectare, you can cultivate manually. Now listen to this very, very carefully. When you have land, farmland, that is less than a hectare, 1 hectare and below, you can get away with cultivating that land on using manual labor. Meaning you go in there, you till it with your hand, you weed it with your hand, you sow your seeds with your hand, and when it comes to harvesting period or harvesting season, you could hire 5-6 laborers or what have you to go in and harvest that parcel of land for you. The moment that you hit 1 hectare and above, now you're gonna need agricultural machinery to help with the cultivating, to help with the harvesting, to help with the tilling. You're gonna need tractors, and not only are you gonna need tractors, you're gonna need people who knows how to operate these tractors and these agricultural machineries. So when now you're talking about 25 hectares. That is a lot. And not only that, he's also based abroad. In my situation, I was able to, I wouldn't necessarily call it a success. The cultivation of the cassavas per se was a success, but just the return on my investment, the return on the time that I put in from the revenue that I received from processing that cassava into gari was not successful. That's why we stopped. And in business, they always say that the number 1 rule in business is do not lose money. And the number 2 rule is don't forget the number 1 rule. So you are abroad And now I'm speaking to you who asked the question, the audience. You are abroad. It's going to be virtually impossible for you to manage a 25 hectare operation from offshore, from overseas. I'm telling you, it's going to be virtually impossible. And I mentioned that in my initial response to you, and you wrote back and said, well, you know, my brother's going to be running it for me, and I'm going to be out in the abroad where you are, working on the financial aspect while your brother is back in Nigeria running more of like the operations aspect of the business. Now that situation is a twofold situation. If you have a brother that is a business-minded person, someone who understands profit and loss, how to handle expenses and how to handle sales and marketing and things like that, that could work. But if it's just your brother, because it's your brother, is a family member that you are entrusting to manage this 25 hectare operation, prepare yourself for a rude awakening. And worst of all, prepare yourself to actually have a fallout with this person, because it's just not going to work. What I would have recommended for you would have been, if you were thinking about cultivating, you have got to prove the concept first. Maybe start with a half hectare land or a third of a hectare land like we did, and cultivate that for about a year. See how you like it. Go through the process of hiring laborers and hiring workers and the ups and downs that comes with it. Because the situation in Nigeria is that people really don't want to farm. The idea of farming is appealing, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of it, you're going to be hard-pressed finding a qualified workforce that's going to go out there and till your land for you and cultivate your land for you and harvest for you. You're going to struggle in that capacity. And the reason why I'm telling you is because I went through it. I struggled a lot finding workers. And when you do find these workers, you are also going to struggle with trying to get them to interpret what you want them to do. Because the structure of working in Nigeria is a lot different from the structure of working in the United States, which was very frustrating for me. You're gonna have situations where people just don't show up to work. People show up to work, they take 2-hour lunches. There's just so many variables. And my advice that could go wrong for you, and my advice to you would be, you could have started, and I know this is a lease, and I don't know if you could break that lease or if you could sublet that lease to someone else, but I'm not going to encourage you to cultivate a 25 hectare land. First of all, where are you going to find a workforce to manage that land for you? Where are you going to find the cassava stems to cultivate on that 25 hectare land? I only used a third of a hectare, and I still struggled with finding good quality cassava stems and workers to work that land. So these are the things that you need to consider before, and I know you've already signed your lease, you're probably on the contract, and I don't know what you're gonna do at the moment with that lease. But and if you're gonna cultivate that 25 hectare plot of land, maybe just cordon off a section, maybe a half hectare, a third of a hectare. Test to see if cassava farming is what you want to do before you go all in, because it's going to cost you time, it's going to cost you a lot of money. I mean, I used to have sleepless nights here in the United States wondering how I'm going to navigate my farmland in Nigeria. It was really rough. And once we got over that, with all of the time and the money and the stress that went into that the operation, at the end of the day, I lost money on it. It just wasn't. Again, are you planning on selling locally? That's also going to impact your revenue in Naira, or you're planning on exporting this manufactured gari abroad or starch or whatever it is that you want to manufacture. What is your distribution strategy? That is something that you have to figure out. You got to have a thoroughly planned business plan on how you're going to not only cultivate this cassava, how are you going to harvest it? Who are your buyers? Are you selling it nationally in Nigeria? Are you planning on exporting it abroad? And if you're planning on exporting it abroad, do you have contacts? Do you have buyers overseas? Do you have a team that's going to help you with that exportation process? These are things that people don't really think about when they go into businesses in Nigeria. They don't really think about things like this. You gotta really think this through before you invest your life savings in an operation that may or may not work out for you. And with the way things are going in Nigeria right now, just the way that I see the workforce right now, you be careful what you wish for. As far as enterprise, as far as Nigeria goes, because you don't want to get yourself in a situation where the business is going to require you to be in Nigeria full time when you're not ready to be in Nigeria full time. That is why we take a strategic approach in our operations in Nigeria as far as Mbericat is concerned. We don't want to outrun our growth. We don't want to get ahead of our own growth. As a matter of fact, we are suppressing that growth because I don't want to put our business or put me and my family in a situation where we're growing so rapidly in Nigeria that it's going to require me to spend a lot of time there or to even possibly move back there full time to run the business when we have a 2-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old daughter. So we are suppressing that growth for now. At least let our kids go off to college. Once they're off to college, then maybe we could take our foot off and let the business become what it becomes. So at that point, if it grows to where it requires me to be in Nigeria full time, or 50%, 60, 75% of the time, I can make that happen. But I'm just not in that position to do so yet. So I'm not trying to discourage you, but I'm saying just have a plan. Have a plan. I hope this really helps. Sorry my voice is a little bit coarse because I'm recovering from a respiratory illness at the moment. So my voice is a little bit coarse. But yeah, I hope this really helps. Thanks for watching. If you find this informative, be sure to like, share, and comment. And as always, feel free to post your questions in the comment section. And as time becomes available for me, I'll do my very best to answer your questions and publish it for everyone else to see. All right, guys, all the best. Talk to you later.